Y'all come in and sit down. We gotta talk. They are saying Diddy is about to go broke. Now let's talk about it, y'all. Diddy thought he dodged the big one. No SMEX trafficking conviction, no RICO convent conviction. Just about 2 men at conventions, and this man thought he was just going tiptoe out the door with some bail. Now listen, Judge Aaron told him to sit down before he sits them down. But y'all, let's actually talk about how Diddy forgot one thing. The civil cases. And now Jane Doe, the escorts, and who's ever got flown out under pressure just got a legal cheat code, and they're coming straight for his money. Y'all, let's get into this, because all I gotta say is, baby, we love to see it. Now, first of all, I want everybody on the internet to understand what Diddy was actually convicted of and why it's a civil lawsuit. Gold Marine, all right? So let's get into it, because this part matters more than people, and the Diddy supporters realize. A lot of folks heard Mann Act and thought it was some dusty technical law. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it is dope. It is rooted in racism, white slavery. However, over the years, it evolved and is now the most powerful tools that prosecutors use in SMEX trafficking. All right, y'all got that. Now let's get into this. All right, so the Mann Act noun is a federal MEX crime statute, and baby, it has teeth. It carries prison time up to 20 years. And if you plead guilty or you're convicted, that stays on your record for life. Now, baby, Diddy was convicted. So what exactly was Diddy convicted of? Under U.S. Code 2421, the Mann Act makes it a federal felony to knowingly transport a person across state lines for the purposes of illegal SMEWAL activity, whether that's prostitutes or coercive SMEWAL arrangements that violate state or federal D law. Now let's break this down legally, because I need for people in the back to hear this. Knowingly means it wasn't accidental. You booked the flights, you arranged the hotel, you knew what was going to happen. For illegal SMEWAL activity includes SMEX under coercion, fraud, drugs, manipulation, or exploitation, not just formal prostitution, and crossing state lines turns it into a federal offense, not just a local scandal. And that's exactly what federal prosecutors alleged that he did multiple times over multiple years to multiple women and the escorts. So even if the charges were sealed, okay, and even if he didn't serve time, which they are not sealed, and he is going to serve time, a conviction or guilty plea under the Mann Act means the federal government proved beyond a reasonable doubt that he uses power, wealth, and transportation access to commit SMEX trials, sex crimes. Maybe let that sit in. No, literally let it, okay? Now let's see. Now here's why the conviction is a civil lawsuit jackpot. It removes the burden of proof for future plaintiffs. That's right, Jane Doe and the escorts don't need to prove that Diddy intended to exploit them across state lines. All they have to do is show up and say, Yana, here's his federal conviction. He's already been found guilty of doing this exact thing. They don't need him to be convicted of SMEX trafficking. They only need to show by a preponderance of the evidence that it's more likely than not that he harmed them. A Mann Act conviction is like a neon sign for the judge saying, this man has done this before. This isn't theoretical. The Mann Act makes him legally vulnerable, even without jail time. Because let's be clear, Diddy may be able to avoid a lengthy prison sentence, but legally, he's now a convicted SMX offender under federal law. That's admissible. That's powerful. And in a civil court, baby, that's money. The survivors don't need to prove consent was absent. They don't need to prove, oh, I didn't consent, I didn't want it. They don't have to sit up in front of those juries and listen to them watch all their horrors and being like, nah, you wanted it. The law has already said it didn't matter. Because under the Mann Act, consent isn't valid if the sexual activity involved fraud, manipulation, or abuse of power. So when people say, well, they agreed to go, the court has already decided the agreement was not legally valid. You cannot legally agree to let somebody exploit you like that. Now here's the translation for the timeline and the people in the back. Diddy just didn't take a PR hit, y'all. He was legally branded as someone who exploits women using power, travel, and coercion, even if he never wears an orange jumpsuit. And he will. Even the best estimate, Mark Garagos, has him as a year. His money is now on the table, and the bill is coming due. But y'all, let's also focus on the civil fallout. How this one, well, actually, these 2 convictions opened the lawsuit floodgates. Diddy's Mann conviction didn't close that chapter. It cracked the safe open. Because now, well, actually, yeah, now that Diddy's been formally convicted of a federal sex crime. What's that mean? Take a guess. Every person who has ever been flown out, locked down, coerced, rugged, assaulted, manipulated, or just controlled by this man in a spectral context. Baby, they have legal ammo. They're who are we talking about? Jane Doe, the escorts, any background dancers, industry girlfriends, paid for plus ones. I'm just saying, and did he pay for their time, not their body? And the ones who were told this is how it works, get used to it. And anyone who had to play alone to survive. Now, thanks to collateral estoppel, a legal term, Diddy can't just show up in court and say, I didn't do that because the federal government already said yes. Yes, yes, you did in fact do that. The Mann Act conviction means every survivor's legal team gets to skip step 1. They don't have to prove if he's guilty. They get to focus on how much he owes. And baby, of course, this is about money, not prison. But again, don't let people screw you with the okie, okay? Don't let people screw you with the okie oak of the, oh no, why are you doing civil? You just want money, hell yeah. Run that fool's pockets up, because without that money, these people wouldn't be on their hands and knees, begging for pennies, doing his evil work, all right? This is about money, not prison. The criminal court gave us the label. The civil court is going to send the invoice. Under the Trafficking Victims Protection Act and the related civil statutes, these survivors can now sue for pain and suffering, psychological trauma, emotional distress, loss of income, punitive damage, attorney's fees, and lifetime therapy costs. And those numbers add up fast. If one woman wins a $5 million judgment, that sets a precedence for the next, and the next, and the next. And this is how predators lose everything after the verdict. Diddy is now one mistake away from losing it all forever. And baby, we love to see it. And here, because you guys, I don't care. Listen, this is a point of discourse, but even a fool can see that right now. And by fools, I mean everybody but his supporters outside can see that now that there's a federal conviction on record, Diddy can never afford another mistake. If another Jane comes forward tomorrow, if he loses his temper in a hotel suite, if a party gets filmed, if a former assistant comes clean, or if an escort feels emboldened, baby Diddy is done.